The guy before me lasted 2 months, said it was the commute. But Pawtucket is a 20-minute drive from anywhere, so I don't know what his excuse really was. My name's Earl, 62, retired mail carrier out of Providence, 34 years walking routes, and my knees finally said enough. Pension covers the rent on my apartment and the electric bill. Doesn't cover much else. So when the listing came up for overnight security at Blackstone Mill number 4, I took it. 11 to 7. Alone. The mill hasn't been a mill since the 70s. Some company bought it in 2003, gutted the looms and the machinery, and filled both floors with filing cabinets. Document storage. Banks, law firms, medical offices, they send their old paperwork here to sit in boxes until somebody needs it or nobody does. 2 floors of paper, a basement full of dead equipment, and me. The booth is just inside the main entrance. Metal desk, a phone that only calls out, 6 monitors, 3 work, 3 show static, a logbook. I brought my own thermos because the coffee machine in the break room stopped working before I got here and nobody's fixed it. First couple weeks I settled into it fine. You carry mail for 34 years, you get used to routine. Same streets, same dogs, same mailboxes with the same dents. This wasn't much different. 11 o'clock, I locked the front door behind me. Walked the first floor, walked the second floor, checked the loading dock, checked the basement door. Just the door. Nobody said go down there. Back to the booth, read my book, do it again at 2, again at 4. 7 o'clock, day guy shows up, I go home. The building makes noise, they all do. The filing cabinets tick when the temperature changes. The skylights rattle when it rains, and it rains a lot here in April. That cold New England rain that comes off the river and doesn't stop. Water gets into the brick. You can smell it everywhere. Wet paper and old concrete and something underneath that smells like rust. Or maybe it's the river. The Blackstone runs right behind the building, maybe 40 feet from the loading dock. At night, you can hear it moving. I found the previous guard's logbook in the desk drawer. Company gives you a fresh one when you start, but his was still in there. I shouldn't have read it, probably. But it was 2 in the morning and I'd finished my Western. His name was Dan Reese. Neat handwriting, professional entries, the kind of guy writes when he thinks someone's actually going to read them. 23:15, arrived, building secure. First floor patrol, nothing to report. 3, second floor patrol, all clear. Page after page like that. Then around week 5, something changed. The handwriting got smaller, tighter, like he was pressing harder on the pen. The entries got shorter but stranger. Pull station B2. Again. B2 checked, nothing. Third week, same time, checked 3 times. Reset panel. No cause found. Then the last entry. Just a date, a Tuesday and a time, 1:33 a.m., and 1 word, underneath. Nothing after that. The rest of the pages were blank. I asked the property manager about Dan Reese the next time he came by. He shrugged. Said the guy just stopped showing up one day. Left his jacket in the booth. They called him a few times. He never answered. They hired me. I didn't think much about it. People quit jobs all the time. Night shift isn't for everybody. Some people can't handle the quiet, the dark, the way a building feels when you're the only living thing in it. My first Tuesday came around. I was in the booth reading Louis L'Amour, one of the Sackett books, and the thermos was almost empty. Rain on the skylights, river behind the building, the usual. 1:33 a.m. The fire alarm panel lit up. Pull station B2, basement level near the stairwell door. The sound cut through everything. That electronic pulse, not a bell, more like a sharp repeating tone that bounces off the filing cabinets and comes back at you from every direction. I grabbed the flashlight, walked to the basement door, opened it. The stairwell was dark and the air coming up was cold and damp. I went halfway down. The pull station was on the wall at the bottom landing, a red handle behind a clear plastic cover. The cover was closed. The handle was in the normal position. Nobody had touched it. I went back up, reset the panel, sat back down, wrote it in the log. ZO 133, fire alarm, pull station B2, no cause found, panel reset. Old building, old wiring. That's what I told myself. I picked up my book and tried to find my page. Second Tuesday, same thing. I was in the booth. Rain again, it hadn't stopped all week. The river was high and you could hear it louder than usual through the loading dock wall. 1:33 a.m., panel lit up, pull station B2. I went down, checked, handle in normal position, cover closed, nobody there, reset the panel, went back to my book. Third Tuesday, I decided to be smart about it. If this thing was going to happen at 1:33 every week, I wanted to see it. So at 1:20, I took my flashlight, went down the basement stairs, and stood about 10 feet from pull station B2, leaned against the wall, watched. The basement it's not a place you want to spend time. The original mill infrastructure is still down there. Brick walls, cast iron pipes, the old boiler sitting in the corner like a dead animal. Hasn't run in decades. Water stains on the floor where the river seeps through the foundation when it rains hard. And it smells. Wet paper from the floors above leaking down, mixed with rust and something sour that I can't name. The fluorescent down there is on a timer and it barely works. One tube flickers, the other one is dead. So it's my flashlight and that half-alive fluorescent and not much else. 1:30, nothing. 1:32, nothing. Just the sound of water in the pipes and the river outside the wall. The handle moved, slow. Not like someone yanked it, like a careful hand was pulling it down, steady, deliberate. The plastic cover lifted and the red handle slid down and the alarm kicked in. I was 10 feet away. There was nobody between me and that pull station. Nobody. I stood there with the alarm screaming and the fluorescent flickering, and I just watched the handle. It was all the way down. And then I walked over and I reset it, pushed the handle back up, closed the cover, went upstairs and reset the panel. Sat in my booth for a long time after that. Didn't read. Didn't drink my coffee. The next day, my day off, I drove back to the mill. Daytime. I wanted to look at the alarm panel when I wasn't tired and it wasn't dark. The panel's a simplex, industrial type, stores about 18 months of event history. I scrolled back through the log. Every Tuesday, 1:33 a.m., pull station B2. Going back the full 18 months the panel could store. 78 consecutive Tuesdays, not one missed. I called the alarm company. Woman on the phone was polite. She pulled up the account, said pull station B2 had been flagging regularly since they installed the current system in 2018. They'd sent a technician 3 times. Each time the tech found the pull station functioning normally. No shorts, no water damage, no mechanical fault. They'd written it off as an intermittent wiring issue and told the property manager to replace the unit. The property manager never did. But 2018 was only 6 years. The pattern felt older than that. I went back to the basement. There's an electrical junction box on the wall near the boiler. Old one, painted over, but you can still see the sticker from the original alarm company. Different outfit. Gone out of business now. Installation date, September 2011. That's 13 years. 13 years of every Tuesday at 1:33 a.m. through 3 different alarm systems, 2 complete rewirings, and the pull station itself was replaced at least once. I found the work order taped inside the panel cabinet. It wasn't the wiring. It was never the wiring. I went home and sat at my kitchen table and thought about Dan Reese. I got his logbook out of my bag. I'd been carrying it, which I know is strange, but something about his handwriting made me feel like I knew the guy. Like he was the kind of person who'd understand why I was still sitting in that booth every night. I opened to his first entry. He started on a Wednesday, his first Tuesday. 0133, fire alarm, pull station B2, old wiring. His progression was mine, week by week, the same curiosity, the same checking, the same slow realization that it wasn't a malfunction. And then that last page, that last word. Underneath, I closed the logbook, put it back in my bag, sat there listening to the rain hit my kitchen window, thought about the basement floor, thought about what's under concrete. I went to work that night, sat in my booth, read my book, didn't go near the basement. But it was a Thursday. Tuesdays were the problem, and Tuesday was coming. Fourth Tuesday. I told myself I wasn't going down there. I told myself that all day. Made my coffee, packed my thermos, drove to the mill in the rain, sat in the booth, opened my book. But I couldn't read, couldn't focus on a single word, because I kept thinking about that handle moving on its own, and I kept thinking about Dan Reese writing underneath and walking away from this job and never coming back. At 1:15, I put the book down, picked up my flashlight, and I went to the basement. I don't know why. Maybe it's the same thing that made me walk the same mail route for 34 years, even when it was 10 below. You show up, you finish. The basement air hit me on the stairs, cold, wet, that rust and river smell. The fluorescent was doing its thing, one tube flickering, one dead. I walked past the old boiler, past the junction boxes. I stopped in front of pull station B2, stood there, flashlight pointed at the handle. 1:30. Water dripping somewhere behind the boiler. 1:32. My knees ached from standing on the concrete. 1:33. Nothing. The handle didn't move. The alarm didn't go off. The panel upstairs stayed quiet. For the first time in at least 14 years, maybe longer, the Tuesday alarm didn't happen. I stood there for another minute, 2 minutes, nothing. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Felt my shoulders drop. Almost laughed, almost. Then I felt it. The floor was warm, not hot, not burning, just warm, like a heating pad under a blanket. Except there's no heating system in the basement. The boiler's been dead since before I was born. There's nothing down there that generates heat. I took a step back. The concrete under my boots was cold, normal. I stepped forward again, back to where I'd been standing. Warm. I knelt down, put my hand flat on the floor. It was warm. And there was something else, a vibration, faint, rhythmic, not mechanical, not a motor or a pump or anything I've ever felt in any building in 40 years of walking into buildings. It had a rhythm, slow, like breathing. I moved my flashlight across the floor, and that's when I noticed it. The concrete wasn't the same everywhere. There was a patch, maybe 4 feet by 6 feet, right beneath the pull station. Different shade, smoother, newer pour. The rest of the basement floor is the original 1948 concrete, cracked and stained and rough. But this patch was clean, level. Someone had dug up this section of floor and filled it back in. The warmth was coming from the patch. Pant, I pulled my hand off the floor. The vibration stopped, just like that, like turning off a switch. The warmth faded. The concrete went cold under my palm. And from upstairs, from the alarm panel in the booth, I heard the system reset tone, that 3-note chime that plays when an alarm is cleared. But no alarm had gone off. I was standing right here. The handle never moved. I went upstairs. The panel screen read, pull station B2, alarm 1:33, auto cleared. But it didn't happen. I was there. I was watching, unless it did happen, and I was standing on top of it. I drove home before my shift ended. Left 2 hours early. Didn't write it in the log. Didn't write anything. I lay in bed, thinking about a 4x6 patch of concrete in a mill basement. Thinking about what's under it. Thinking about Dan Reese standing in that same spot, feeling that same warmth, and writing one word before he left his jacket. and never came back. I went to work the next night, Wednesday, sat in my booth, read my Western, drank my coffee, did my rounds, first floor, second floor, loading dock, skipped the basement, wrote in the log, quiet night, nothing to report. I still work there. I need the money. Knees aren't getting better and the pension isn't getting bigger. I don't go to the basement on Tuesdays anymore. At 1:33 I sit in my booth and I let the alarm go off and I reset the panel and I go back to my book. I don't check. I don't look. The handle moves by itself and I put it back, and that's the end of it. Some nights, when the rain is heavy and the river is high, I think I can feel it through the floor of the booth. That warmth, that slow rhythm, coming up through 2 stories of filing cabinets and bankers' boxes full of paper that nobody will ever read. I understand Dan Reese now. Some things are better left